Guess what? I wrote a book. I'm an author. Today on the show, I'm going to take you through all of the steps in writing a book and how this process began for me, in case you're thinking about writing and becoming an author as your second act. Let's get into it. Are you ready to quit your 9 to 5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. I am a former television producer turned business owner, career transition coach, and boy mom. My mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Hey there, and welcome back to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I'm Shannon Russell, career transition and business coach, entrepreneur, and now author. Today, I want to take you behind the scenes as I share my journey of writing my first book called Start Your Second Act: How to Change Careers, Launch a Business, and Create Your Best Life. Writing a book has been a dream of mine since I was maybe 5 years old. I've always been obsessed with books, loved reading. Love the fact that my 2 boys love reading. It's just a big part of who I am. And writing a book is even more exciting to me. I just have wanted to get my words down onto paper. But how? If you have ever thought about becoming an author and writing a book, then this podcast is for you. It's a perfect idea for a second act, but it's not easy. I'm going to walk you through the process of how this happened for me and where I am on my journey. Okay, so in 2023, I began thinking about writing, and I wanted to write fiction. To be honest, I wanted to write either young adult novels. I've been really a huge fan of that genre for a long time, or Christmas novels. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you know me at all, if you've listened to this podcast, you probably heard me talk about my obsession with Hallmark Christmas movies. In television, I was able to exercise this muscle. I wrote scripts for television, I wrote marketing copy for our shows, and so I was able to write a lot then. Then fast forward to me as an entrepreneur. When I began my coaching business, I was able to get back into producing the podcast, writing scripts, writing show notes. I was able to write blogs for my website, and I was excited to get my ideas down onto paper. So cut to me thinking about writing these books. And I started taking some online classes, little workshops here and there, to kind of learn what the process would be like. And then it hit me, and I said, why am I going to write fiction when I have this career and business coaching practice? Why not write a book that can really serve my clients, my podcast listeners, and people who haven't met me yet, people who are not inside my world? If they see this book, they'll be able to read it, get some value from it, hopefully get inspiration, and start working toward their second act. In January of 2024, I decided to write a book, and it was going to be based on Second Act Success, my career coaching business, and the podcast. It was going to be sharing ideas about my career transition and about all of the amazing women I've had on the podcast and clients and stories that I've gotten over the years of women who have transitioned from working a job to starting a business as their second act. What I decided to do is take a course. And I met this really incredible woman named Julie Broad. She's the founder of Book Launchers. And I joined Book Launchers for a 12-week intensive. This 12-week intensive taught me everything I needed to really take all of my ideas and put them into book format. And so by the end of these 12 weeks, I had my first draft done. And it was incredible to see these ideas take shape in book form. From the time I started actually writing this book to when it will actually be released and be available in stores will be just over a year. The book launches on May 7th, 2025. Considering all that I've had going on in my life and my business, to be able to write this is a huge accomplishment for me, to be able to get this done, check it off of my list, and be able to say that I'm an author. Now, if you're thinking about writing and you're looking at your life and the craziness of your day-to-day, and you're thinking, how am I going to do this? But maybe I'm just a little curious about the process, I'm going to break it down for you. So grab some coffee, get comfy, let's dive in. book. So if you have an idea for a book, or if you have many, it kind of correlates to what I advise here on the podcast when it comes to starting a second act career, is that you might have a lot of different ideas in your head, but you have to get those ideas on paper, do your research, and narrow it down to the one idea that is going to be your second act career move or your second act business. It's the same thing when it comes to thinking about what you want to write for your book. You might have a bunch of ideas in your head, but it's taking those ideas, slowly trying to flush them out to figure out which one is going to be the debut novel. Every book starts with the idea. For me, it started with start your second act. It was really based off of my business and what I coach clients and what I talk about here on the podcast. And I knew I had a lot of stories to share, insights, advice, but how was I going to put that together in a book? I realized as I started flushing this idea out that I kept hearing the same questions from my clients. And that was, how do I leave my job? How do I start a business? How do I make this transition without causing chaos in my life and disruption for my family? Where do I begin? I knew that this book needed to be a tool or a resource to help women figure out their plans in a very methodical, step-by-step, action-oriented way, where they could go from where they are to where they want to be and be able to use the book as a reference. So inside my book, at the end of each chapter, there are questions to ask yourself, there are action items to take, and there are workbook style prompts for you to really get ideas down and start making progress on your idea. If you are thinking about writing a book, I want you to ask yourself, what message do I have that other people need to hear? What transformation can I provide? And then that is your foundation. And honestly, you can use that whether it's you writing a book about your own experiences or the industry that you are in or the community that you serve, or these same steps can be used to writing a fiction book. You're really just trying to figure out what the message is and what you want the reader to take away from reading your words. Once I had the concept about what I was writing, I had to figure out how to organize it in a way that made sense. I really broke down the journey from career frustration to business success in a way that made sense from start to finish. I also wanted my book to be actionable, so I structured it kind of in a way like I do with my clients. It feels almost like coaching on paper, if you will. Each chapter builds on the next. It shares stories that are relatable, hopefully. I pull a lot from my television producer days, so there are entertainment industry kind of references throughout it to play up on the second act aspect of the title. And I really dive into other topics too, like mindset shifts, financial planning, business idea validation, self assessments, personal branding, and really just taking action. So I had these different ideas, these different themes or topics that I wanted to incorporate in the book, but I had to figure out how to structure it. Making an outline of the different areas and then kind of puzzle piecing it together really helped me figure out a nice flow for the book. It kept me focused as I was writing and prevented me from feeling really overwhelmed. I knew I could go to the self assessment section and write just about that there, or I could go to personal branding and just write about that. In the book, I talk about my second act strategy, which is the main strategy I teach within my coaching and within my courses. So, what I did there is I made a chapter that just dove into top to bottom the pillars of my second act strategy. Just to use that as an example, I had my outline, I put all of the meat and potatoes into each section, and therefore that was the structure of the book. And then I just wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And then by the end, I had that first draft. And then it was time to go through the editing rounds. To get to that point where you have that draft ready to go, what you can do is just really start with the outlining, just ideas for each chapter, and start writing that way. It will keep you focused and prevent you from feeling that overwhelm staring at a blank page. As far as writing goes, I wrote maybe once or twice a week. That was my goal. It wasn't a lot of time, but it was enough time to keep me focused and keep me engaged and wanting to write more. So some days the words really flowed, other days were harder. So you just go with your flow and you see how it feels. If you can find 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there, maybe an hour on the weekends to just sit away in the quiet with yourself and your thoughts, you'll get those words out and it'll start forming the story that you want to tell. The key is just being consistent. So even if you have to put those little breaks in your day or week into your calendar, stick with it. The second you skip it, it's just like going to the gym. You skip it once and you feel like it's easy to skip the next time. So don't do that when it comes to writing. Another tip that I was given by the team I was working with is don't edit as you write. And that's very hard for me because I come from a background in television of editing. There's a script, you edit it. You edit it for the talent, you edit it based on notes from the executives. Don't edit. Just get your ideas out and then you'll go back and you'll do an edit yourself. So just get your words down. You could always refine it later. I wrote my first draft. And after the first draft of any book, it goes through rounds and rounds of edits. There's a content edit where a content editor will look at everything that you've written from a content perspective and really break it apart, decide if you need to add anything more, if you need to beef sections up a little bit, if maybe you need to clarify some areas. If there are any kind of suggestions based on the content of what you're telling, of the story, then the content editor really helps you flesh that out. Next is copy edit. Basically, an editor comes in and says, you have typos here, or you need a different word to use here because you've repeated it a few times. So there's a lot of copy edit rounds that your book goes through as well, which are very important because you don't want those typos there. All of these editors that you will work with or that I worked with were so, so valuable. I even had a writing coach that I sat with and just had her read it very objectively and get her feedback. She actually didn't have too much feedback. She really enjoyed it at the place that it was when we started working together. But it was just the ideas of how to promote the book and how to enhance it, changing the titles, even the subtitles to be really exciting where people want to read because it's a very catchy title. Just having someone else put their eyes on the book and give you that valuable feedback is really just so instrumental to you bringing it together to have it be this very cohesive book telling the exact story that you want to tell. I highly recommend it. Even if you think it's perfect on day one, go through those rounds of edits, let other people see it. Those outside eyes really help. All of this editing has gone up till now, really. There's so many different rounds of edits. And then there's the design for the book cover, and there's interior designs for anything you want on the inside, choosing the font, choosing the page layout. There's just so many decisions to make that honestly I had no idea about. But it's been such a learning process and really just so overwhelmingly insightful and wonderful, even if it is stressful sometimes. My problem is I'm so type A, I want everything tomorrow or today. And I had to be a little patient because a designer needs time to work and editors need time to read and give notes. So it's just this kind of waiting process. But for me, working with this team at Book Launchers was really helpful because the team kept me on track. They knew what the timeline was. They knew what came next in the book publishing process. And so I really had faith in them, working with them to get me to every step. And now I'm here with a book that should be in my hand very shortly and ready for all of you. I mentioned that I am self-publishing my own book, but there are other ways to publish. So if you're thinking about publishing, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, you can choose to publish your book with traditional publishing, meaning you get an agent, a literary agent, who then pitches you to publishers. That publisher will accept you or not. If they accept you, then they will work with you to get the book through all of these edit rounds. And they will make sure that they publish the book, they do the marketing. They're really a team player throughout the process. And then they either pay you to finish writing the book, or they will take a percentage of the sales of the book, or I should say. So it's a very different process than I'm doing self-publishing. But that is one option, traditional publishing. And then self-publishing is what I'm doing. I am working with a team, which is amazing. So I feel like I'm working with a publisher, but they're just helping me throughout this process. And I'm getting the book out. So I am investing in getting this book out myself, and then I'm investing myself into marketing the book. But then everything that comes back from the book is mine. I don't share the rights or royalties to this book with a publisher or with a literary agent. It's all mine. I own the book outright. There are also hybrid models when it comes to publishing that are a little bit traditional, a little bit self publishing, more of a boutique publishing agency. Definitely research your options. I decided what was best for me, and you might do your research and choose another route. So it's really very individual. And it also has to do with how soon you want the book out, or really kind of what the support is you want. Research it and look into what works best for you. Once you know how you're going to publish the book, you have to build buzz, you have to market, you have to get the book out into the hands of the people who need it most. And this is where my background in business and branding really came in handy because I have been here doing everything behind the scenes. I have been planning the book launch parties. I have been creating my book army to help me get the message out. I have been creating the social media and the marketing assets to promote the book. I have been getting merch for the book and giveaways and planning incentives for people to read the book and review the book and share it with a friend. So there's so many aspects of the marketing and really getting the book out there into the world that I've been busy working on. So by the time you see the book or you hold the book in your hands or see it at a store, you will know that there's been so much going on behind the scenes to actually get there. But it's actually been really fun. So I'm really enjoying all of it. If you are thinking about writing as your second act, don't just think about it, but think about who you're writing it for and how you will reach them, because that will flow over into your marketing ideas, building buzz, and your audience and how you will reach them. Will you go speak at events? Will you do a press tour? Will you do workshops at your local library? How are you going to get the word out to other people outside of your immediate circle? For me, I have so far been doing a podcast press tour where I've been booking myself on a million podcasts, having great conversations, and talking about my book, trying to get the buzz that way through other podcast listeners. Soon, I will be having some in person events. I'll be speaking at several events in the next couple months leading up to the book launch. So I'll be able to talk about the book there as well. And I'll be able to sell the book because the book is now out for pre sale. When you go to startyoursecond.act.com, you will be able to purchase the book now. You'll see a hardcover version, a paperback version, an ebook version, and an audio version. So you'll see all those versions, be able to purchase them now and then access them on May 7th when the book is officially released. This is great to have this pre-sale going because when I do speak on stages and I go to events, I can let people know right away. They can click and purchase the book and it'll be ready for them on May 7th. So it's a great aspect to have this pre-sale up and ready to go. Finally, let's talk about lessons learned, and I'm sure I'll do another episode down the road, really telling you how this whole process came once the book is out into the hands of readers. But really, lessons learned are that this book writing process, this other act of mine, has taught me a lot. It's taught me not only about writing, but about discipline, storytelling, and the power of sharing your expertise to reach a wider audience. If you're thinking about writing a book, a short story series, a memoir, whatever it is, here is my advice. First off, as in all the advice I give here on the show, it's start with your why. Know why you're writing and what your transformation is that you want to have your reader take away from it. Then make a plan, outline your book so that you have that roadmap, that you have that outline, and you can just start putting your ideas and your content in each chapter. Stay consistent. Have that time on your calendar when you're going to go sit in the quiet with your thoughts and with your computer or your pen and paper and write just a little bit. Make it so it's fun. Make it so it's enjoyable. Grab a cup of coffee, grab your water, get comfortable, put a blanket around you, get cozy, and just write. It's time for you and your thoughts to come together to create magic. Don't be afraid of the editing process. Your first draft is not your final draft, and keep reminding yourself of this. Let other people look at it who are professionals and let people give you their ideas and their insights and take it or leave it, but it's up to you. Just don't be afraid of that process because it really helps you mold this project you're working on into a finished manuscript. Lastly, think beyond the book and start thinking about your marketing and your publishing as you're writing. This is the fun part. So think about how you will use your book to serve others. Who's your audience? Who can you speak in front of? Who can you share this book with? That's the fun part, thinking about the future while you're writing. So think beyond the book and think about the impact it will have on others. All right, so there you have it. That is my behind the scenes kind of journey of writing my new book, Start Your Second Act. I hope this episode gave you some insight and inspiration to start writing your own story. You have a message that someone else needs to hear. So, writing a book is a great way to get it out there into the world. If you would like to check out my book now, go to startyoursecond.act.com. You can download a freebie from me. It's my second act journal that you can download for free, or you can pre-buy the book now. So check it out, startyoursecond.act.com. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Thank you for tuning in. It's always so much fun to spend time with you. Keep working towards your second act, and I will chat with you next time. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.